Cool. All right. So, great. I'm actually going to be giving this talk at Logic, which is the Lunar Operating Guidelines and Infrastructure Consortium. Um, and so this is kind of my demo of the talk. So you guys are my guinea pigs. So sorry if I stumble across anything. I'm just trying to figure out the flow of the presentation and see how it goes. I'll read the title here because it's kind of a mouthful, and it might not make sense now, but by the end, my goal at the end of the presentation is that every single word in that title makes sense to you, and you understand why that word is in there. So it's a trustless transaction and arbitration framework for the enablement of an offline, autonomous, decentralized, off-planet economy. So a lot of modifiers, but each and every one of those words is important. So let's dive in. So let's see the so first, why are we doing this in the first place? Like, why do we care? What's the purpose of creating a simulated environment where a bunch of companies can work with one another? Um, Basically, we need to accelerate our progress in creating a sustained human presence on the moon. It's the gateway to the rest of the solar system, and it's important that the values that we care about are the ones that are propagated out into the rest of the solar system. The we don't necessarily want a winner take all type deal when it comes to the moon, because that would have crazy implications for the future of humanity. We really want to speed up the progress towards lunar development, but do so in a way that is still in alignment with our values. And our uh, our number one strength in the United States, and I'd argue in kind of the West generally, is that there's a competition between private companies. Um, but that said, it's difficult for these competing entities to work with one another, despite it being an incredibly harsh environment where there's a dire need for interdependence between all of these organizations that are going to be on the surface of the moon. And pretty much all of them agree that we need interoperability, standards, an awareness of mission profiles. And but the big question is, okay, how do you actually do that? How do you ensure that there's a fair playing field between all of these organizations if we're gonna try to collaborate? And the last thing I want to bring attention to is that we really want to de-risk private investment, because at the moment a lot of these companies rely on government funding. But if you could help de-risk their business models and think of it that way, that might unlock a ton more funding so that they can access VC capital. Um, and so yeah, but there are more problems than just that, and I'll go into a few of them. There's kind of an unclear regulatory environment at the moment on the lunar surface. There's a bunch of companies that want to be there, but they don't really understand what are the do's and don'ts yet. And those policies, they're kind of vague within the Artemis Accords, the Outer Space Treaty. There's kind of a lot of open questions there. Um, there's a bit of a circular dependency where a bunch of these organizations need kind of critical infrastructure and need to know what's sort of the adjacency of the assets around them, like what can they plug into, but there currently just isn't a system where they can look and see, hey, you guys are going to be over there on the moon at this time. And that's very difficult if you want to construct a business model, because you don't know who your customers are, you don't know what they need or when they're going to need it. Um, and then, lastly, there's no established access to each other's plans. So you don't know their interfaces, how they interoperate with one another, and this makes it very, very difficult to coordinate. And so uh, there's kind of a very interesting moment that occurred within that meeting during Luna 10, where you have a bunch of these big players all in one room. Some of their logos are at the top right, and you have a consensus that they all agree that this kind of needs to happen. And via DARPA and LSIC and Logic and NASA, there's some maybe neutral entity that can provide a framework around this stuff. And yeah, we just have this huge need. So um, a lot of this is actually kind of rehashing what Evan presented within that meeting. And then at one point in this presentation, we'll actually get into the implementation of it. So I want you guys to maybe dream a little bit. So, this is a potential user interface for what this might look like, where you can see a bunch of mission profiles, where they're going to be on the lunar surface. You might also be able to see a timeline and have this geospatial awareness. And even furthermore, know what resources are in different parts of the moon. Um, and then different organizations can plug in and provide data to this type of platform. If you have great information about what resources are on some part of the moon, you can upload that data, and then organizations can pay to use that to help construct their mission profile. And some of this already kind of exists. There's the Lunar Quick Map, which is pretty cool. That has it shows you what kind of resources are in different parts of the moon. But you can't really upload your own CAD files. There's no shared mission kind of. This is a start, but it's not the complete idea yet. It's missing the ability to upload resources, the ability to move those resources from one place to another, and upload your assets so you can coordinate missions. So this is what's called the discrete event simulator. So actually being very concrete about exactly what each mission is going to do, when they're going to do it, the interfaces, who's providing power, who's actually establishing this shared mission profile. So okay, great. We've got this idea. We want to build this simulation where companies can plug in. But there's some very, very important considerations. So, for example, if people are uploading their data to this federated simulation, how do you ensure that their data is private? So, I'm uploading my CAD files. I don't want all these other organizations to be able to steal my plans. I want to just reveal to them the only the important bits, and maybe even select which organizations can see that. So, you want to have kind of this layered privacy. You want to be able to have organizations like Logic upload standards, resources, known assets, verify those assets, and be able to plug into something like this. So now we're starting to look into kind of a back end. Okay, so you've got public data sets, historical data ledgers, all these different organizations that have their mission profiles. And then also, yeah, while we're at it, we might as well also add real-time data and information on the assets that are currently there on the moon. So we're starting to just kind of flesh this out, and you might have the Logic consortium that has a community-driven interoperability standards that can plug into this, NASA, etc. And okay, now we need to ask the question, okay, can each of these startups really bet their organization on something like this? So we've got this kind of full picture of all these organizations that depend on each other and need to coordinate. But the problem is that this could be centralized, and if it is centralized, then all these other organizations that rely on this type of infrastructure are not going to want to use it because maybe they're uploading their CAD files and someone else is stealing it. And so we kind of have to look into how could we make something like this in a way that it, ensures that it's credibly neutral. And so this is where we synced up with Evan and started to ideate on this sort of architecture. And luckily, there are a lot of Earth analogs to this same problem, and that's kind of what we've been working on for the past three, almost 4 years now at MoonDAO is how to coordinate with people from all over the world that might not necessarily trust each other, but can rely on the infrastructure of, say, a smart contract to describe the sort of permissions and be able to govern and program the incentives and actually codify those policies so that all these different entities can organize and work with one another in a way where there's security guarantees and guarantees about how the organization operates. And then furthermore, you get a bunch of very interesting things that just kind of come as a package. So because a lot of this stuff is built with financial infrastructure in mind, you get some very interesting benefits as well from a financial point of view that we'll get into. And then on top of that, the infrastructure is peer to peer. So when you're actually on the surface of the moon, you can plug into this infrastructure on a peer-to-peer basis, and it even could work in an offline economy where there's limited internet access. So we'll get into all of that, but kind of as we started to merge these ideas of this simulation and this backend infrastructure, we started to see all of these other benefits emerge, and it was really interesting, and the idea kind of unfolded as we got deeper and deeper into it. Um, so we've been talking about a simulation, right? But eventually, all of this will actually go into the real world, and there will be a ton of autonomous systems that are going to be relying on this infrastructure. And this is an active area of research, and actually something that I think is going to be immensely important in the future, which is how do all of these AI systems, all of these robotic systems, coordinate with one another, and how do we ensure that they're in alignment with the will of the people, and don't become maybe centralized in the hands of just a few individuals that have control over these very, very large swarms of robotic entities. Um, and so the way that we kind of dove into this is via the kind of the atomic structure of a transaction. So at the end of the day, two systems coordinating kind of looks like a transaction between two parties. So if we were to zoom in on that a little bit more, there are four things that we kind of take for granted. Say if you're going to the grocery store or something like that, and you do a transaction between yourself and the grocery store, you need to know what are the identity of the parties involved. So, do they have the right maybe permissions to operate as a grocery store? Does that person have a bank account that's registered somewhere? Standards. So, okay, what currency are they using? What are the relevant communications protocols? What languages are you speaking? Accountability. So, what's the receipts, the financial infrastructure that it's built upon? And then finally, arbitration. What happens if something goes wrong? What if you buy a sandwich from the store and then you open it and it's spoiled? Can you get a refund? If there's a dispute, how's that arbitrated? So these are things that we do every day on Earth that we don't really necessarily think about, but are kind of fundamental to our ability to organize as a society. And so on the right, you'll see we've got a couple entities. So we've got a factory and a robot, and they want to coordinate with one another. And so on the left, you'll have a little simulation, and then on the right, you have space. So what we're trying to do is emulate what will actually happen on the surface of the moon within a simulation, so that by the time they actually get to the moon, they can actually operate in the same way that they did in the simulation. And so a lot of what we're talking about is kind of normal backend database stuff, but with a twist of it being managed by a smart contract with strict permissions, security permissions, and interfaceable via the sort of infrastructure of the Ethereum virtual machine. So what we essentially fleshed out is these mostly are like SQLite tables. You can think of them that way if you're familiar with that sort of thing. That are managed by smart contracts that can be updated by each of the systems on the moon, and then verified with a credentialing body such as Logic to ensure that okay these people are meeting these standards. And so there are a bunch of organizations like Open Lunar that have been working on things like this, and actually one of the co-authors on this paper is from Open Lunar working on this type of database to register assets. And an asset registry would be, I mean, it's really important, but it's even more important how that data is managed, how it's operated, who can change the data, who can verify things. And a lot of those issues are solved if you can establish the rules of how that database works via smart contract, and then ensure that all of the entities that are registered there do so via a wallet where every transaction is signed via their private key, so you know that it's them. You know that they're the only ones that have the permission and ability to access and edit that data, rather than a central server that could be corrupted, could be hacked, or could be edited without someone's permission. Um, and on top of that, because of the distributed nature of this type of thing, you can have it living in various data centers on Earth and even on the moon, and backed up by things like IPFS, where you have many versions and copies of this database so that it becomes very difficult to corrupt. Um, so something that was pointed to in that asset database is a standards database. And similarly, it's going to be very important to have high security standards for a standards database. And so similarly, we've created basically a framework so that organizations such as NASA or Logic can upload standards that are driven by the community, by private industry, that say, hey, we want to adopt, this power standard, or we want regolith of this nature, so that companies know what they're working with, what to expect when they are receiving a resource. Communications protocols come to mind too. How do these different systems talk to one another? So all these things are really fundamentally important, and we want private industry to be the ones that kind of drive this forward. But we need to maintain a database so that all these different companies can adopt the standards, can use the standards, and they know what things they should be uh, keeping in mind if, for example, they want to sell power on the surface of the moon, so that they can do so in a way that's standardized and makes it easy for them to do business on the surface of the moon. Um, and so, okay, you might be asking, great, we've got all of these databases. We've got all these systems on the moon, but it's like a 3-second round trip latency between the moon and Earth. So what happens if any of these systems don't have, a high bandwidth connection where they can communicate with one another on the surface of the moon? And that's a great question. And so what needs to essentially happen is you need to have all of this operate locally on board each of the systems, so that they can reference the standards, they can reference the identity of all of the other systems in a way that doesn't require them having to check in with Earth every single time that they have to do a transaction with one another. And so essentially, because of the nature of this infrastructure, um, each entity on the surface of the moon can have a locally cached copy, and then they can essentially accumulate a bunch of transactions, And then when they go back to a place where there's a high bandwidth connection to Earth, they can upload all of these transactions, all the receipts, everything that happened, and then settle on Earth. And so basically, you can have this reporting mechanism where after a transaction is done on the surface of the moon, it can be sent back to Earth, and then at that point, it can be settled either financially or arbitrated if there's an issue. And then at that point, it's kind of in the hands of Earth, and they can use whatever sort of regular legal court in whatever jurisdiction that any of those entities are operating within. But essentially, the work can be done on the moon, locally in a peer-to-peer fashion and even offline, and then settled on Earth later. So, we've basically covered a lot of the full architecture here. I put it just on one page so we can kind of look at it. And hopefully some of these words that we're using at the beginning of the presentation, trustless, arbitrated, offline, peer-to-peer capable, decentralized, autonomous, all these words are starting to make a little bit more sense to you. Essentially we've created this simulated environment that plugs into this background, or this backend, I mean, that is by its nature decentralized, and then we get all of these amazing benefits on the surface of the moon, where all of these entities can transact with one another financially. They can interoperate with one another. They can figure out each other's identities, and they can make sure that they're abiding by common standards so that they can work with one another. So we actually created a little video game ourselves in order to kind of help elucidate the concept a bit. This is actually Phil put a lot of this together, and so essentially what you're looking at is a very rudimentary version of the simulation that we kind of brought up before in a screenshot. But essentially, you have these different entities on the surface of the moon. The one on the bottom right is currently collecting regolith, and it will go over to that little factory that's in the center and actually do a transaction. And what's happening when these two entities meet is they're actually verifying each other's identities. So they each have a private wallet, and they can issue a challenge to one another. They can then look up each other's identity in their local databases that are cached between themselves, and then ensure that this person matches this identity that I have, and then they can look up the standards which they're using, and then ensure that they're actually compatible and that they're speaking the same language essentially. And then lastly, each of these entities records a copy of those transactions, and then once they have internet connectivity, then they upload those transactions on chain, and then they can settle the transaction between themselves. You can do a little time warp thing where you can run these simulations at 5x, 10x speed, and you can essentially set up a bunch of these different little robots and have them play around with one another, and then they're actually they have behavior trees, so you can sync up their behavior. It's pretty fun to play with, but again, this is just like a simulation just to help elucidate the concept. It's not intended to be, the final product by any means. Calls to action. So this was phase 1 of this study. We're now moving into phase 2, and the reason we're giving this presentation at Logic is we basically want input from the community, from private industry, and tell us what they resonate with, what makes sense to them, and help them kind of drive our roadmap forward. So we have a lot of potential directions and a lot of ideas, but we want kind of a call to action for people to join the conversation. And I'm actually going to be pointing a bunch of the Logic community to jump into the MoonDAO Discord to help organize this conversation. So we'll make a channel here in the Discord where all these people can kind of congregate and talk about this project and have a discussion about its future. And yeah, maybe even turn this into a launchpad initiative via MoonDAO to help finance its future and progress the idea. So, yeah, I guess all of you guys are already in the MoonDAO Discord, so you don't really need to scan that QR code. But yeah, if we'll let you guys know once that Discord channel is created, and we'll post a copy of this presentation alongside the paper, so people can read the full thing and dive in and give their thoughts about this sort of system. So. I think I only have like 15 to 17 minutes in the actual thing, and I think I've gone almost 30 minutes here. So you guys got a much longer version of this presentation. I'll probably have to like really slim it down next time around. But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and I'll kick it back to you, Ryan. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to post them in the chat or yeah, give your thoughts.
I was gonna say
Or we can have people jump up.
Yeah, any questions, invite to speak or pop them in the chat. We got Leah coming up here in a second. I guess one quick question, Pablo, super interesting. I think this is obviously like a vision for a lot of what we think about with blockchain and smart contracts off world. Obviously not going to be like Visa cards and stacks of money and all that. Like how can we really unlock this off-chain, off-world economy? I think would be off-chain. One quick question, I guess, in terms of the actual transactions or the off-world database, I guess, is this something that you think would be basically like on an existing L2 like Arbitrum or Base, or would this require something totally different, not like a new chain or a new L2? Or I guess what does that kind of look like in terms of having robots or whatever that are out there offline potentially for I don't know, a week or 2 weeks offline essentially? What does that kind of look like?
Yeah, so in the paper we reference Arbitrum as like, okay, this is currently a technology that could be used, but I don't think it meets all of our requirements. Specifically, the ability to transact with people without publishing it to everyone else, because uh, you know people want to keep that business information private. So probably one of these like ZK rollups would make a lot more sense for these companies. And a lot of them are in development. Some of them are semi-functional, but I haven't really seen um, anything that really fits yet. But that's definitely a big question. Is like what's the right type of L2, and will we have to construct one ourselves? Maybe, and that might actually be kind of interesting too, as like a way to have full control over the stack. Jade asks when ICO. Uh,
Yeah,
we'll see.
that's great. But yeah, future MoonDAO project. But good to see you, Leia. You have a question about this?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, just making sure. So I'm just curious, Pablo, that was awesome. And I think I'm doing my master's thesis for my air and space law degree in exactly this, like law for, law past the reach of light delay. And I'm just wondering, what would be the milestone, the first milestone here? Is it getting SpaceX to adopt the protocols? Is it getting the United States? Like, is where's that first milestone of like moving towards the critical mass of adoption of this particular framework?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I mean, we've been kind of dreaming about this sort of thing for a long time, and the big question was always like, okay, well, great. If we build it, will they come? Like, what? How do you actually get enough people to adopt this sort of thing? And I mean, imagine our shock when we're pulled into this workshop meeting, and then DARPA is the one saying, "Hey, we need this," and they're actually willing to fund this, and they're willing to actually move it forward. And then actually, if I go back a little bit. There's a few of the DARPA performers that we've added their logo, but then there are actually a bunch of other organizations that reached out saying that they actually wanted, to be a part of this as well. And I don't know if we have the number. We should have the number here. Something, but I think it was north of like 40 organizations that were interested in being a part of something like this. So I think there's good momentum around the idea, and definitely an awareness that hey, this would be really amazing if it existed. So yeah, I think we have a bunch of people that are interested in the progress of the project, and hopefully we can like keep their interest with this result and phase one of its development. But I think our next big milestone will be getting funding for phase two, and locking in maybe some big partnerships with some of these organizations that demonstrated interest, and showing them this work, and maybe formalizing that interest a bit more.
And then I have another really technical question, but you're talking about Earth to Moon communications and the light delay. Any ideas about having like nodes at like one of the like Earth Moon Lagrange points or something like that to be able to have so you don't have or it's just breaking up the communications chain so that it's not just the Earth Moon. And that requires hardware, and somebody'd have to launch it and get it into lunar orbit and everything like that. But just wondering, I know with distributed systems that the nodes are pretty crucial. So
Totally, yeah. So the way that we kind of thought about this is essentially like the same way that that like L2s operate on top of the EVM. So they'll actually just have like a ton of transactions that happen um, like off chain, and then they'll settle all those transactions in one big bundle all at once. And that allows for them to do things faster, cheaper, and then with a subset of nodes. So you could imagine like a subset of nodes that are on the moon that have like some security, some level of decentralization, but then they would upload all of that transaction data and send it back over to Earth. And yeah, I don't know what that communications chain looks like, whether it goes through a Lagrange point, or whether we can maybe leverage some of these ideas of like the PNT networks that will be on the moon that will also have some limited communications, and then maybe that I don't know exactly what the hardware looks like for all of that, but at least just from a software point of view, it makes sense that you wouldn't want to have to check in with Earth on every transaction. So if you can bundle a bunch of them together, then that makes things a lot easier.
Thanks. I said I could talk to you about this for like an hour, but those were my two burning questions. So I look forward to talking to you about this as far as me trying to write my thesis on exactly this, but kind of like to get the lawyers on board. So
Totally. Yeah, let's sync up sometime this or next week, and we can talk more. Yeah.
awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Pablo. Super interesting. I guess we'll shift gears here and to do some quick project roundtable updates. We've got Sarah in the audience. I know you guys submitted the final report here recently.
I think
Also,
I just want to answer Matt's question, if
Oh.
that's directed towards this, about he said any thoughts on governance or separation of
Oh.
power.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, we're kind of leaving open-ended at the moment, any sort of ideas around governance of that network, or how that would work. And yeah, it's definitely something that can be plugged into this type of system, which is really cool, but that's kind of above my pay grade. Asking, how are all, how is SpaceX and Blue Origin going to coordinate with one another in the governance of this organization if they were to adopt it? Those are all really, really, really big questions, and I don't and I don't know how that would actually end up looking. So we can provide the technology and the tools, but then how they're applied will be up to the people that want to use them.
What's the name of the organization?
Logic.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Sorry, Ryan. Didn't mean
No
to cut you
worries.
off. Just want to make sure I
Just
answered Matt's question. Yeah.
I just shared a link again here too for Kevin or others to the Logic group. Cool. Hey, Sarah, any updates you'd like to share on your end?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everyone. Just to recap, the project we're working on is a financial dashboard for DAOs. We used MoonDAO's on-chain data, and we have a financial dashboard. I'll drop the link again in the chat. And we've been, for this project, we submitted a proposal on MoonDAO. We've been testing with some members in the executive branch every week for the last month, and we've finally finished testing. And so far, we've discovered that around 70 to 80% of the 4 dashboards we've created meet a lot of the needs of the users. And we submitted the final report this week, where the strongest 2 features requested was a visualization of the reward system and the integration of the data on chain so that it's showing multiple wallets of the treasury. Yeah, we'd love to hear back on the report, and then we can discuss from there what suits the community best. If we continue, we can definitely submit a second proposal for those specific needs, and how we move forward. Yeah, that's about it. I'm not sure. I haven't done this before, so I'm still waiting on some input to complete the process in CoordinUp for the rewards. But otherwise, I think everything has been completed.
Cool. Yeah, we'll have there's still a couple weeks, obviously, until we wrap up the end of the quarter before we actually get to like processing any votes or rewards end of this month. So you guys, are a little early, but that's good. Make any changes. I know Michi was going to go through the final report and make sure we have everything we need there, and I'm sure he can help you too with the coordinate aspect or any of those little details. But well, I don't know if we have Anna available. It's been a while since we've heard about the IAC paper, but not sure if you're available. You can see if she hops up, but in the meantime, I don't know if anyone has any kind of open floor updates, just general kind of things that they're working on in the space sector, space industry. I don't know, Titan, I know you guys did the Chase event. Be cool to hear a little bit about that, or anything else that people have that they'd like to share here before the top of the hour. Hey, Titan, how's it going?
Yes, we did. We did our 4th class out at University of Arizona with Trent Trish. We had a class of 4. It was a good class. We, as usual, Trent added in some additional changes to the curriculum and so forth. We did suits on day 1 and got to do a few more, get physical with it, move around. And then, unfortunately, I wasn't able to stay for suit day, but it looks like from the pictures they did had a lot of fun as usual with the water regress training and so forth. I think they even added a little bit of skydiving technique, because one of the concepts is one of the challenges, of course, is getting out of a harness off a parachute harness as you enter the water. And I saw some photographs of them practicing the lay flat, try to control your body type skydiving education, which is great. I wish I didn't. I have to take the class over again so I can experience some of these new things. Unfortunately, right now, that's probably going to be our last class for a while. Trent is moving on to new endeavors, finishing off his PhD and doing other things. So we're in I-24 in Trent. We're in talks with what we can do to bring the Chase class to its next edition, next version, acquiring the equipment. I've even talked to a few people here in the MoonDAO about potential partnerships, but we're all kind of busy right now trying to get through our lives. So hopefully we'll have something by fall. We'll have something put together. But yeah, so if the concept would be we would bring it to Houston instead of having it Tucson. Houston's more centrally located, more of a space city. We could offer more things, specifically Space Center Houston. Do tours there. We're also talking about what the next version would look like as far as maybe a second class, a scuba component, maybe a skydiving component, those kind of things. So if anybody has any ideas or would like to assist in something like that, just let me know. We're trying to make it all happen.
Cool. Yeah, looks cool. I saw a few posts on social media, was glad that Bob was able to make it out there for that. And I know he's obviously expressed a lot of interest in the past too about doing some scuba components over in Key West and Florida and whatnot. So it'd be some cool stuff to pursue. Hey, Mats, how are you? Mats, I can't hear you. I don't know if it's just me. I'm muted. Hello, hello. No, I can't hear Mats, just me. Okay, same from Pablo. Okay. Well, we might be having some technical difficulties here, Mats, that you might need to resolve, but might try. Sometimes folks hop into Major Tom after the town hall and just have a little bit more of an open floor and casual discussion. You can try hopping in there and see if you can resolve the mic issues and share a little bit more about what you're working on. But yeah, thanks. Thanks everybody for joining us. Sorry for the technical difficulties here at the beginning. There's some larger internet site-wide issues that were going on around in the interwebs, so out of our hands. But yeah, next week we'll have another cool guest presentation. We've got Chris Stott from Lone Star, who'll be coming up next week for a little discussion, sharing more about the data centers that they're putting on the moon, some of their previous missions that they did with intuitive machines. So it should be super, super interesting. So definitely join us next week, same time, same place on Thursdays, 3 p.m. Eastern time. But yeah, thanks everybody. Don't forget to submit your contributions as well for any space-related efforts, projects, things you're doing to help the MoonDAO mission, help humanity become multiplanetary. I'll share the link here to the contribute portal. But yeah.
I had a question about that.
Yeah.
A newbie question. Can that be any contribution to the space movement?
Yes, it can
Papers,
be. So
VR, anything we're building,
doing. Anything that's relevant to bringing humanity off world. If you have something tangible that's already been done and delivered, you can go to the contribute portal as a citizen and submit what you did, what did you get done this week, basically, and link to some proof of work, basically, whatever that might be, whether it's a PDF or a public video. People do YouTube videos, or they do sometimes social media updates about MoonDAO or about different things that they're doing. So it can be pretty open-ended. And then at the end of the quarter, the community just kind of distributes rewards based on the perceived impact of those efforts. So happy to.
Oh, great. That's what I was hoping. Thanks. Wonderful. I'll do that soon.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to get you and some other folks from HSP to submit some of that stuff too, for sure.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, check out the link and let us know if you have any questions there, Kevin.
Thank you. The link's in the chat, right? Where's that?
Yeah, I put it in the
I got it.
ground control. Cool. Hi, Pathfinder.
Oh, new to MoonDAO. You know, the project that I'm gonna say that Holy Fire, Do Perfect, and Kobe Content, they've been here for a while, and I see it, the whole chat right here, and I think there's a lot of stuff that can be talked about in space, and I'm just saying that even though I don't have a budget to support for this project, I really wish that really hope that the project MoonDAO will going further, because I see that this is kind of like an interesting topic, right? You get to see another space, you get to see the moon, you get to see the Earth. I
Totally.
have a kind of like one question though, like when is the time to send a member to space? That's MoonDAO question in general.
Yeah. Well, we sent 2 people to space so far. There was the Dude Perfect launch. So that was Kobe Cotton. That happened
Yeah,
in
that's
August
yeah,
2022.
Kobe Cotton.
Yep.
They make a
And
video
then,
about it, and it blow up.
sorry, I was just sharing the link to the video. Got really,
Yeah, that one. It blow up on YouTube everywhere.
yeah,
Even
it was
YouTube comments
incredible.
that. Yeah, that was
And we
insane.
also sent a regular member to space here last year, which was Dr. Iman Jahangir. He was in here earlier. He was chosen by random selection during our second Ticket to Space sweepstakes. So, yeah, I mean, we've got some other interesting kind of projects and ideas in the works, hopefully to send folks to space again. But you'll have to stay tuned, I guess, in the meantime. But thanks for
Yeah,
the question.
and also what if like say that I want to be an entry, want to be like say there's people voting, what say that how I can be qualified to be a voting entry for to say if people want to vote for me to be in space, like how I can be that, because I also kind of like one of the career, I make music, but I'm interested to see if I can make a music with space, like using the sound of space to making a song. I seen that there's
Totally.
one of the series that inspired me so much by Andrew Huang, with the title Space Time. It's like a YouTube series where he goes into space and make music out of it, but it turns out it was like a whole set of films to make a film, but it was interesting to see.
Yeah. Well, we don't have any specifics about like what that would actually look like, but I definitely encourage you to check out the join page and just kind of get more involved with MoonDAO, and staying tuned as to future developments. We are here at the top of the hour, though.
Wow.
See, Wilson, want to hop up real quick? How's it going?
All right, go back to okay. I'm back to our audience. That's pretty much what I'm gonna ask for.
Yeah, well, we can chat. I mean, you can hop into Major Tom afterwards too, Pathfinder. But hey, how's it going? Awesome, Wilson.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Just quick question. As far as the contribution page, is there a way to upload photos or images, or is it just written?
Yeah, you should be able to upload photos directly. There's WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get editor there, where you can just submit a photo of the contribution or a link to photos too. Either way should work.
Perfect. Thanks, and good to see you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Cool. All right. Well, we're a little over the hour now, so we will wrap things up for this week. Hope to see you guys all here next week. Any more questions too, don't hesitate to, send them out in general, or in the social channels here in chat. Cool. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.